All right, we're live. Hi, I'm Noah Pfister with Kyskorner Productions, and you are watching Showverse. Today's topic is going to be very interesting. We're going to be doing a debate. The topic in question will be, should the Star Wars sequel trilogy be canon? Joining us today, we have Kylene McHenry. Say hi, Kylene.
Hello.
All right. And we also have John Goodman. Not that John Goodman. Our John Goodman.
Different fat guy.
Different fat guy. Yes.
We both do have a passion for flannels, but different guy.
That is true. And joining us always, our lovely Sean Tortez. Say hi, Sean.
Hey, what's up?
All right. So we all know the hot topic of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There was a lot of good moments, a lot of bad moments, and a lot of moments. So that being said, with the success of The Mandalorian recently, and as well as a few aspects of it, such as, we're not getting into spoilers, but with introduction of a certain character, as well as, another certain character going off with that character, it kind of raises the question as to whether or not The Mandalorian will lead down the path of the sequel trilogy. So while that debate is still hot and ready, we're going to dive in head first and discuss whether or not either of us believe that, the sequel trilogy should remain canon. So let's start off, shall we? So why should it not be canon? Who would like to go first? Sean, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I could try, but I'm just saying, I think it's not canon because, I don't know, like, even the pre-sequels I actually enjoyed somehow, but, I'm still used to, the original three, but, I don't know why you want to continue where what was the last one?
Rise of Skywalker?
No, the mid-trilogy. Episode 6.
Episode 6.
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, there you go.
No,
Why
wait.
would you... Yeah, it is Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Wow, I'm starting out, but we forgot already.
For me,
Return of the Jedi.
If I can throw my 2 cents in, which if we're going to split this evenly divided, I guess I'll have to say that Kylene and John, you guys are for keeping it canon. Is that the case?
For the most part.
All right. So I guess it's going to be me and Sean versus Kylene and John. So this is going to be fun. I personally do not think that it should remain canon, as there are some aspects of it that that kind of take away from some of the better elements of both the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. That being Anakin's story. The whole idea of Anakin Skywalker is that it's a tragedy. He was a guy who came from nothing. He eventually had to leave his mother. He was born a slave and then became a Jedi. Failed to save his mom. Failed to save his wife. And then his best friend, cut off his arms and legs and burned him alive. The whole point of this is that it's Anakin's story. It's his journey to being a Jedi, being a Sith, and then redeeming himself. That is Anakin's story. Him throwing Palpatine down that shaft was all of Star Wars summed up. That's the story. So bringing Palpatine back and having Rey kill him, it takes away from Anakin's story. And it kind of makes the actions of not only the rebels in Episode 6 just kind of be like, okay, cool, they blew up a Death Star and killed a version of Palpatine. And the fact is, it should have been they killed Palpatine, not they killed a version of Palpatine. So overall, I don't feel like the sequel trilogy added a lot to lore. It actually took away from the story that was previously set.
I will kind of agree and kind of disagree with you on that, in that what they were trying to do with the sequel trilogy was finish the Skywalker arc. I feel really their biggest flaw in the sequel trilogy was not focusing more on Luke and on the continuation of the Skywalker family's story. Because it's not just Anakin's story. It's the effect of Anakin on the entire universe, including his legacy. By not continuing to pay homage or pay any tribute to that in those, they did fail. I'll acknowledge that, but that's still what they were trying to do.
All right.
Yeah, and going off what John said, I agree with that too. Like, that wasn't the end. And bringing back Palpatine, I thought was actually great, but it should have been more Kylo. He's a Skywalker, not Rey. And that's where my biggest hang-up is for the third one, is the fact that she took the mantle of Skywalker when it should have 100% been Kylo Ren, and I think he should have survived. And even if he did die, because it's the end of Skywalker, the name should have died with him.
All right.
So
I will 100% agree with that.
Also, why did they kiss? Why did they like Rey and Rey? They didn't need to kiss. That was okay. I like how like we're trying to keep this even, and so far it's just everything that we've talked about, like why it should be canon. It's like no, it should be. Well,
we agree on points. We don't agree on reasons for the points.
Which brings us to the next topic, which you guys all briefly touched upon in this segment, but now we need to talk about why it should remain canon.
Okay.
Really?
Go ahead.
The only thing that I think should not be canon is the Holdo maneuver. The whole warp driving through people as a weapon. That is the only thing that's the only thing that should be decanonized, because otherwise it completely throws every bit of ship design and ship combat out the fucking window.
I loved it. I honestly, as much as Last Jedi is kind of like iffy for me now, I love that scene. I
do too, but the problem is they made it easy. They should have shown 1,000 steps she had to go through to including forcefully overriding something, because otherwise every ship can be destroyed like that.
Well, then
that completely null and voids ship design.
It also, remember, it was only Holdo. It was only her on the ship. Like at that point, if it's like the ship contains thousands of crew members, and the fact is that the only reason that worked was because it was just her. So it's a suicide maneuver that was mainly meant as a last ditch effort, because the fact is that if there was an entire like squadron of rebel resistance fighters, then it'd be like there's a good chance that the explosion caused from the lightspeed suicide would then branch off and hit all the resistance fighters as well, which is why I see it as a last ditch effort. But that being said, why should it remain canon? Kylene?
Okay, I think that the story as a whole should be canon, because going more into depth with the Palpatines and the Skywalkers, like I mentioned before, it just brings a finality to the name in a way. But the part, like I said, was the whole ending itself that needs to go. Like I do not like the ending of the way it was. But bringing out like more with Solo, Chewbacca coming back, bringing back the Falcon, just like all the nostalgia pieces, and doing it in a way that made more sense for later on in the story, and bringing back the Luke and Leia. I mean, all of that stuff that they did and that they worked on, like I said, it was great until the very end.
Honestly, it was just a reskinning of dang it, I've just completely forgotten the EU story. Jace. It's just a reskinning of Jace's story, and we all loved that story when it was coming out in the novels.
I mean, the novels did have some issues. It did bring back it also did bring a Palpatine clone, and it made Luke evil, which made for some really good drama. But you had Chewbacca basically sacrifice himself by nuking a planet, which, as far as deaths go, like that is it's a ballsy move. However, it would have definitely like taken stakes, and that's something that I think the sequel trilogy was severely lacking. There was never any really high stakes that I could see. Like for example, you had moments like in Rise of Skywalker. Yes, if Chewbacca died at Rey's hands, it would have pissed off a whole lot of fans. However, that being said, consequences to her actions. She would have learned that, you know, they're like this power inside her like is raw and it's filled with anger, and it would have allowed us to see a more vulnerable side of Rey. She killed her friend. Like, that would have been such good drama, but no, he was on a different ship, which we never saw. And then, you know, like, ugh. Like, have any of you guys read Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly's original version of Episode 9? What was it called? Duel of the Fates.
No, I have not. I've read parts of it.
Like, believe it or not, despite the fact it would have been done by an entirely different team, the story overall would have been more finite. And, you know, like, one of the really interesting aspects was that R2-D2 was going to die, you know? He would have. I don't remember exactly what, but R2-D2 would have died. But we're getting off topic a little bit. Let's move on to the next question, which is, what are the detriments to keeping it canon? Sean, would you like to start?
Wait, the what? The detriments?
Yes, like the downsides of keeping the sequel trilogy canon. What are the downsides to it?
Oh, the downsides to it is, like, the whole thing with Palpatine, like, he should have died, like, at the end of Episode 6, right there. Like, they don't even show, like, they even mention him being a different version. They never mention him having a kid or anything or whatsoever. He just, like, poofed out of nowhere.
That's true. And the fact is that, you know, there are a lot of poor choices that were made in the sequel trilogy that, like, not only conflict with the timeline, as well as the themes, as we mentioned with, you know, Anakin's story. One of the
they did.
What?
We haven't even touched on Finn. They did Boyega dirty.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to Finn. We'll get to John Boyega. Like, oh my God, I should have had that as a question. John Boyega as a whole. Oh my God. Also, keeping it you know what? I'm going to keep it straight to the point. Keeping it canon is basically rewarding you know, a lack of a roadmap and poor character choices, like going to John Boyega. Honestly, he probably would have made a far more compelling main character. One, character POC, streamlining a Star Wars series, which would have been, you know, huge. You also have a former stormtrooper who basically turned deserter. And also, it does seem like they were building up to him being a Jedi, which would have been awesome.
In the novelization, they heavily hinted at him being Force sensitive.
Yeah, like, and imagine how awesome it would have been.
Hinted at it.
Did you? There's a very awesome deleted scene from The Last Jedi, which they cut for some unknown reason. It was after the Lightspeed suicide, and it was a confrontation between Phasma and Finn. Now, what was really great about that scene was, you know, he basically was on this platform with Phasma, and she's ordering her stormtroopers to kill him, and he turns to the stormtroopers and basically tells her, like, hey, do you want to know, like, hey, guys, have you ever wondered why Starkiller Base blew up so easily? Or have you ever wondered how the rebels resistance fighters got through? And she's like, huh, who would believe such a dumb theory? And all the stormtroopers just kind of look to each other. And then she straight up just murders all of them because she realized, they're starting to catch on. One of the detriments of keeping the sequel trilogy canon is basically glorifying the bastardization of Finn's character, also bastardizing a lot of, you know, other characters as well, such as Luke, who you know what? I will say this. I personally liked Luke's portrayal in Last Jedi. I love a hero who has lost just so hard and basically becomes a recluse. That was great. I loved it. However, after seeing The Mandalorian, spoilers, I'm sorry, but the fact is that after seeing that version of Luke again, the Luke that I kind of grew up with, it's like, you want to know what? As much as I would have loved to have seen that version of Luke, I feel like what was missing was a more hopeful version of Luke, you know? At the very least, he should have been the one training Rey as a Force ghost. And that's another thing that they kind of dropped the ball on. We could have had Kylie, you said you didn't like the ending, right, for Rise of Skywalker?
Yes, 100% did not like it.
One thing that should have happened was they had they had an entire cast list of people like Sam Jackson, Liam Neeson, Ashley Eckstein or something, the woman who plays, Ahsoka. You had all of these people come back to just do. Oh, Hayden Christensen. They all came back just to do voiceover work. Can you imagine what would have happened if they had actually appeared next to Rey? Sure, Rey wasn't, Rey is just not really the best main character. But the fact is that if all the Jedi appeared behind her, then that would have made a little more sense as to her being the chosen one. Sort of like, all of them would have been behind her. That would have been cool.
And it's not like they couldn't do it with CG because they did that with Leia because Carrie Fisher unfortunately is gone. So they could have done it easily.
Yeah, it's overall keeping it canon messes with the canon, devalues a lot of the characters, and promotes poor corporate choices for some of these characters who got screwed over. Like, keeping it canon is basically, to me, I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but I apologize. It's basically the equivalent of saying, oh yeah, everything that happened with John Boyega, with Kelly Marie Tran, everyone just, beating them down. Yeah, keeping it canon. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Don't worry. For the next question, there's the other side of that coin that I would like to touch upon. But overall, to me, it's like, oh yeah, keeping it canon. That means all the ways we poorly treated Finn and Rose. Yeah, we like that. We like that a lot. It's just keeping it canon is basically just saying, yeah, all of these choices were bad, but it's whatever.
To me, their biggest mistakes with these movies was playing it safe while simultaneously trying to do all of the things. Had they played it safe and only concentrated on a smaller scale or smaller scope, I think they would have been safer. But they tried to do this grand opera, and with a grand opera, you can't play it safe. You have to commit to the consequences.
Exactly. If you can hold on, we should probably hold off on to some of the more specificities with that for a later point, as I'd like to move on to the next question, which is, what are the benefits to keeping it canon?
It establishes some of these amazing characters, which the movies did dirty, but it keeps them there. Otherwise, Ben becomes the equivalent of Jason, and Boyega disappears, and all of these characters who are really great if you flesh them out, if you give them the attention they deserve. Because Phasma was dramatically underutilized.
Oh, yeah.
Her armor, who here knows the trivia about her armor?
Wasn't it? It's Beskar.
No.
It's not Beskar? What is it?
No. It's Palpatine's ship. The chromium ambassador ship that Organa had, or that not Organa, Padme had.
Oh yeah,
her special chromium ship. That's that's Phasma's armor. Is Palpatine's. It's pieces from Palpatine's ambassador ship.
That's insane.
Yeah, there's so many details that if they had paid these characters true attention, they're amazing. And to get rid of them, to decanonize them, just because some ham-fisted writers were shit, it takes away opportunities for later writers, because the comics and novelizations that are coming alongside these movies put these movies to shame. The novelization of The Force Awakens is what it should have been, hands down. The comic books that accompany The Last Jedi are what the movie should have been. And to decanonize all of that, or to decanonize the movies, would decanonize those, and would decanonize opportunities for later proper attention to be paid.
Yeah, and it's And by decanonizing them all, it's literally doing what they did already with the extended universe. Like, you made the movies, deal with the consequences. They should stay, and it should be a reminder for you guys to do better. Just like set the bar higher. Like, you can't just go back on what you made.
Not only that, plus, and this may come across as a bit insensitive, I do apologize, but considering, what happened with Carrie Fisher, to decanonize, part of me does kind of feel like, as much as I don't want this to be canon, to decanonize it would also mean that the work that Carrie Fisher put into the role would be for nothing, and that as much, like I said, I want
that
it
was
to
her
be
last role.
rub me the wrong way.
We respect the general in this house.
Yeah, so I will say what I say. I want it canonized, but the benefits of keeping it canon means that Carrie Fisher's work was well put forth.
And another problem, and I'm not necessarily saying anyone in this conversation is this. Another problem I have is a lot of the people in the circles I frequent that are calling for decanonization and calling for criticizing these movies are the guys who've been criticizing it since the teaser showing a black stormtrooper. Because it showed a black stormtrooper. I'm very delicate.
Really?
Expressing a lot of the guys who I've heard it from are the guys who have been shouting racial slurs since Boyega took the helmet off.
And don't forget about the whole Disney aspect.
Yeah. So and that might just be the circles I frequent, but those are not small circles because I'm big in the TFLA scene, in the lightsaber combat scene. So I'm very delicate when I criticize the movies. I don't even talk about these points that I criticize about these movies around most of my acquaintances because I don't trust them. I don't trust their like I said, I'm not saying anybody in this room, but if you pay attention and you go back and you read some of their tweets from when the Force Awakens was teased, and you're gonna be like, I don't know if I trust your opinion there, buddy.
Yeah, and then we have
real quick. Steele said about making Rey Skywalker with super force and that they could have done much better route. That's exactly what I was talking about, Steele, earlier, which is why I said I didn't like the ending of the movie at all.
No, you're 100% right.
There.
Which, before we go on to the next question, I would like to say I'd like to have one last thing, which is I feel one of the benefits to keeping it canon is, you good? Nah, all right. That's a green screen.
It's a green screen. Yeah.
Did not know that. You good? Oh,
sorry about that.
Hey, you're fine.
Oh, nice.
I have one too, but it broke. But I
have a stack of training sabers for reasons.
Heck yeah.
Oh wait, I wanted to touch upon one of the benefits of keeping it canon, and that is just Ben Solo's story. Which don't worry, we're gonna get to that in a couple questions, but right now that's all I want to say. So that being said,
reading the comics that accompany it.
I haven't had the chance to
do it.
I know. I've only heard good things. So, but on the other end of that good things side, we now get on to our next question, which is, what are the worst parts of the sequel trilogy? All right, guys, let's do this. Who wants to start? Hold on. Who wants to start? You know what? Sean, take us away first.
Wait, where to start?
Yeah, I know. We're going to be the confusing one. Let's try. We all have to try and
keep it as slow as possible.
So, Sean, take us off. What's your least favorite aspect about it? If you had to pick one.
Kylo Ren throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
He kind of did.
That's fair. It was supposed to be a more serious scene, yet the way they played it off, it was way too comedic. So it's like, nah.
As much as I love the Nope troopers, they really just They infantilized him. They infantilized him. In that
nope.
scene.
I'm out of here.
But no, my biggest problem with the series or with the sequels is the Holdo maneuver, where it, as a person who thinks about ship design and ship combat and all this stuff, like, it drives me crazy because it completely delegitimizes all of the reason why these ships are shaped the way they are.
Kylene.
Okay. The question one more time. Pull it up.
All right. Sorry.
Okay.
What are the worst parts of the sequel trilogy?
Okay. Awesome. Well, okay.
By the way,
so before
you answer, I just want to say, for those of you watching, all 2 of you, I guess, one thing that we are going to do, don't worry, it's not just going to be one for each of us. This is just the easiest way to start off before we all eventually just dunk the shit out of this thing. Like, we're all like, well, come on, let's face it, we're all going to dunk on this thing, even though you two, hold on, where is it? Yeah, even though you two are like for keeping it canon, like I know you have a laundry list of things that you want to say. So Eileen, what is the one thing? What's the one thing you think is the worst part about this trilogy?
The worst part of this trilogy?
Yes.
Oh god, the worst part. Okay, go to John. I'll be right back because there's so much and I can't pick one.
John just answered his.
Yeah, no, I'm going one at a time because I got a list.
Okay,
all right.
So I guess my biggest critique for this part would be the way that Han Solo's death. It needed to happen. That was what the actor wanted. But at the same time, and the reasoning why, Ben doing it was so impactful. However, it felt kind of lacking to me. Don't get me wrong, I cried in theaters because freaking Han Solo, but
yeah, Han Solo's dead.
But it's just, I think it could have been executed a lot better, and that's probably my biggest gripe besides the whole ending, which I've already talked about multiple times. That's my biggest gripe in the entire of the trilogy.
All right, my gripe with the trilogy. This one's going to be a little different because it's not just a singular choice that was made. If I had to describe it, it would be this. The worst part about the trilogy is the lack of vision and a roadmap. Now, let me explain. So, with Lord of the Rings, you have your beginning, you have your middle, and you have your end. Each movie, with Fellowship, Two Towers, and with Return of the King, there was a roadmap. There was a journey that had to be made to one place and to back. Even with the Planet of the Apes trilogy, even though it originally was just supposed to be kind of one movie before branching off into 2 movies, there still felt like there was, a through line to it. Like there was a reason for this story to be told. Even the new Jurassic World trilogy, which I gotta tell you, I don't think it's going to be as good as any other trilogy out there. However, it does have one thing. It has a consistent vision with Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly. Even though Colin did not direct the sequel, he still wrote it. So the fact is that the story and the people that are handling the story remain consistent. With the sequel trilogy, it felt like there were things that were set up, with Force Awakens that J.J. Abrams had. However, Kathleen Kennedy, who we will get to, tried going about it the way of the original trilogy, which the original trilogy had, you had 3 different directors. You had George Lucas, Irving Kirshner, and Richard Marquand, and George Lucas, who came back. But the fact is that, yes, each director directed a different movie. However, the fact is that the director of said movies didn't also write the screenplay, except for George Lucas, who wrote the first one. The fact is that they didn't have a roadmap. J.J. Abrams he said in interviews that he had an idea, of where the story would go. But the fact is that due to very poor management, they basically let each director kind of be like, you know what, just take it, do what you want to do. And after the reaction of Last Jedi, it became painfully clear that, that wasn't the way to go, which happened, which led to Colin Trevorrow getting fired and giving us the Rise of Skywalker. So to kind of sum everything up, the worst part of the trilogy for me is that you had Star Wars, the biggest franchise probably ever, next to the MCU. The MCU is fine and all, but it's Star Wars,
It's the fucking wars.
It's exactly. And the fact is that Disney, probably one of the top 3 biggest companies in the entire industry,
the first megacorp of the world.
Yeah, it had this property, and everyone was looking to them to do the right thing, and they dropped the ball far too hard. And it's just like, say what you will about George Lucas and the prequel trilogy, which, by the way, is, it's kind of it's getting its fair share of love. Don't get me wrong, Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace are still pretty bad movies, but there's at least an enjoyment to them because we have, the extended lore, we have Clone Wars, we have all of Dave Filoni helping flesh that world out.
Sorry,
but it was all held.
These raisins.
Yeah, it was all held by George Lucas. There was a singular vision. There was a through line. There was a story that had to be told. With the sequel trilogy, it's like, what story need to be told? So that being said,
I will follow up on that point. It started with Abrams' mystery box. In interviews leading up to, The Force Awakens, he was talking about the mystery box that is these characters and how he loves to have a mystery box element in his things, and how in the original trilogy we all were introduced to Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and we had the mystery box of who was Darth Vader. No, we didn't. When Darth Vader was introduced, he was the mysterious Black Knight figure. Because let's be real here, Star Wars, at least the original Star Wars, is not science fiction. It's every swords and sorcery novel you've ever read with space and lasers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Old wizard finds a farm boy, gives him his father's mystical sword, and tells him he has a mystical destiny. They must attack the fortress of the Dark Wizard and defeat the Dark Knight. What does that sound like?
Every single series I've ever read in fantasy, high fantasy.
Exactly. But the fact is that with Star Wars, it fleshes out the world. There's lore. Yeah. It's about presentation, and Star Wars does that very well.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that as a detriment. Oh. I'm saying that as Abrams didn't get that. No, Abrams was like, yeah, no, we all had the mystery box of who was Darth Vader. No, we didn't. Nobody had that fucking mystery box. You very clearly do not understand the franchise you're working on if you think that we were all wondering who is Darth Vader. No, we didn't.
All right, now let's get into the specific ones. We'll try to ramble it off a little bit. Sean, another worst part of this trilogy. This time you can just go. Just go.
Okay, hold on. Crap. I'm trying to think. Other than the tantrum, is that about one particular thing? It's about like 3 parts of it. You know how Kylo Ren and what was her name again? The main protagonist?
Rey.
Rey.
Yeah. The whole they could touch each other through space and time or whatever that is. I don't get that part.
They were a dyad in the Force, so they were always linked to each other. They were both opposite ends of the Force and had the same power. It's basically the equivalent of a twin and an evil twin, if we're going to boil it down to the story.
Yeah, but that was poorly written and poorly executed.
Yeah, and I'm also saying, also at the end, how's the lightsaber go from one point to the other point?
Force magic.
Camera perspective. I know. All right.
Yeah, it was a poorly thought out and poorly executed.
John, another bad part. Let's go.
I'm gonna go off of what I was just talking about. as with the Star Trek series that Abrams did, it is very clear that when he started this series, he had no action. Like, he had not talked. He talked to film students about it, but he hadn't talked to fans. He hadn't talked to fans about the series. It's very obvious that he didn't understand what he was picking up, because if he did, it would be a very different movie series. The first one would have been vastly different had he talked to nerds about it rather than just film students. Because it's a great movie, it's not a very good Star Wars. The same with the old Star Trek movies he did. They're really great action movies. They are trash Trek. Right, absolute trash.
That's fair. That's fair. Kylene?
Okay. Not enough Luke. I mean, good amount of Leia, but not enough Luke.
Poor Mark
I get, like, yeah, I know. I get why they did it, but at the same time, like, it's Luke Skywalker. He's like the
His
staple character.
He's
the staple. Him and Leia were the staples, and they didn't utilize them to their fullest potential.
Arguably, he was the extension of the Skywalker trilogy or Skywalker story, and they should have weaved him in deeper.
Yeah, and it is a shame because you listen to. By the way, did any of you guys also see the tweet Mark Hamill sent out after like the last? You know what? Screw it. At this point, that episode of Mandalorian has been out for almost 2 months now. Everyone has to have seen it at this point. So yes, Luke Skywalker comes back at the end of the second season of The Mandalorian to take Grogu and train him.
I've seen it, but I've seen the memes.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, I think it was like a couple days after the episode aired, Mark Hamill tweeted to Peyton Reed, because Peyton Reed was like, "Man, it was so awesome to work with Mark Hamill just for a little bit." And Mark Hamill said, "Yeah, it was so great working with someone who fully understood the character and allowed me to really bring back what I loved about it." And everyone's just like, Mark Hamill telling Disney that he fucking hated what he did. Oh my God, that's great.
That's awesome.
Oh, he's Mark Hamill. He can swing his big dick around like that.
He's the Joker. He's a clown. He's literally one of the best protagonists and one of the best villains ever conceived. That dude can do whatever he wants and say whatever he wants. I'll listen.
Favreau is a freaking phenomenal director. He is phenomenal. I think he did a fantastic job with The Mandalorian.
And keeping with the worst parts, because we're gonna try. We'll do a couple more rounds of this before we move on to the best parts. But another bad part is I'm gonna kind of just throw it out there. For one thing, they're like, the whole George Lucas meme. It's poetry. It rhymes. Like, in the second Star Wars movie, Attack of the Clones, Anakin gets his arm chopped off. In Empire Strikes Back, Luke gets his hand chopped off. I wholeheartedly believe that Rey, in the same vein as Rey is one of the worst parts because one, she's supposed to represent, female empowerment. That's one of the reasons why she was so huge. However, she's not a very well-written character. There's not a lot about her that we actually know. For example, with Alita. How many of you guys have seen Alita Battle Angel?
Yeah.
Great movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Take Alita, for example. She is overpowered as fuck. She wins almost every fight she's in and only is saved at the last second in the second fight. However, despite the fact that she is so stupidly overpowered, the fact is that they have little moments, little character moments that tell us a little bit about her and help flesh her out, allows us to bond with her. She's handed an orange, all right? What is the first thing she does with that orange? She eats it, like skin and all. And then she's like, I don't like this. And the guy's like, yeah, you're supposed to take the skin off, the peel off, and then eat it. It's a dumb moment, but it shows us a little bit about her.
It's Superman writing. You can't write a character. If you have a character who's super OP, you have to write their drama from the character, not from the power abilities.
Exactly. And with Alita, we saw, what it would have helped? we like saw in several scenes in Alita, there's just moments where it's just her eating. Like it's not eating for sustenance. You can just see she's eating because she's really into eating. Like that's a great moment. And also we do feel her complexity, you know, she wants this body, you know, and she can't get it because her father is too afraid to give it to her. The fact is she had great growth and development. With Rey, there wasn't that. There was no real way. She's a video game protagonist. She's a voiceless video game protagonist. She is blank. She is bland. She is meant to be a placeholder for the audience. But
she didn't grow. Her character didn't grow in the story, at least not like they may have tried to force it, but it didn't feel like authentic the way
it never felt authentic, not once. And
she had plot armor.
She had some thick plot armor, and it's like, look, I'm not into, you know, I'm not trying to say all women in action movies need to have their shit rocked and get like tortured and all that stuff. I'm not for that. However, it's like she never got like battle damage. Like there's only one scene where like she actually got hurt, and that's in the throne room in Last Jedi where she got her arm cut. But besides that, I actually cannot think of a moment where she was like actually injured and like actually sustained damage when compared to, you know, Finn, who got his spine cut open and also was in a speeder and got slammed. Finn
was the punching bag.
Finn was a
badass. Finn is a badass. He should have been the lead.
Really was a badass, and it was and like we were going to keep saying it. John Boyega and Finn were treated dirty. All right, one more round. I feel like we're taking up way too much time in terms of the worst parts. So, Sean, let's start taking us home.
What, with the worst parts still?
Yes, we're still in the worst parts. We're just going to go through one more time, and then we have to stick to the positive.
Okay, well, continuing from you about, like, Rey not taking any damage whatsoever, like, if you think about, like, what the other Skywalkers went through, they went through physical damage, mentality damage. They went through all that, and Rey just, I don't know, just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, this isn't anything against Daisy Ridley. This is nothing against Daisy Ridley. No. Daisy
wonderfully was what she was given.
She did the best with what she was given.
If Rey was a Skywalker, she should have gone through that. That's kind of like the Skywalker's rite of passage. Lose a limb.
In the first sequel, Luke lost a hand. In the second sequel, Anakin lost an arm. What should have happened in The Last Jedi is Rey should have lost the entire arm. That would have been perfect.
That would have been dope as shit.
Literally, can you imagine just in like the final battle, she has one lightsaber that's like yellow with her human arm, and then she brings out another lightsaber with her fucking robotic arm. That's cool. All right, John.
The worst part, I feel tricked by Disney with Boyega, because leading up to The Last Jedi, Boyega was training with a fencing instructor who used to do lightsaber stuff, and like the entire community knew about it. So like they tricked us with that. Boyega was training to be a fencer for this shit, and they dropped the ball on him. They dropped the ball with him so hard because he's an amazing actor. I've loved him since
Attack the Block.
Yes. Like when that first came out, because my grandma is from North London, and that came out right when one of my cousins was coming to visit us from over there. So of course they were like, "Hey, this movie's about where we're from. Let's go watch this." And I was like, "Hell yeah!" And I was like, "Holy shit, this is dope as fuck." And they just did him so dirty.
They really did.
And they tricked us with him too, because I wanted to see him have a proper lightsaber fight.
We're not going to talk about the Chinese posters where they just like straight up removed him.
Oh, we're not.
We're not. That's a can of worms.
Wait,
I don't think.
What? That I didn't know.
You didn't know that?
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Almost every character of color was completely taken out of all the posters in China. let's move past that before we really start doing wrong stuff.
Okay.
So Kylene.
Yes. Oh God. Wow. That I didn't know. I need to look into this more. But I just really liked, like I said, with that with Finn, like Finn's character, going off that some more. But like even the relationship with him and Rose, like I would have liked to see that played out more too, because that was just kind of thrown at you, like where did this come from type thing. Like just the interactions, the growth, you know.
Also, where's the love?
Yeah,
I mean, like, look, not every movie needs to have a love story, but I mean,
if they had the balls to do it, they would have had it between Finn and I just completely forgot his name.
Poe Dameron. You and every single one of the girls that I know wanted that. It honestly, I kind of wanted to. However, I'm more of a Finn and Rey guy. I do honestly believe that it's...
Why not both? Have you not seen The Expanse? It's just
no, I have not. I know that's a good show, though.
Just big old queer polyamorous cuddle pile on ship.
Good golly.
And like, why did they portray Rey and Ben Solo like that? Like being in love and stuff in the kiss scene at the end. Like there was nothing to show that, yes, they were connected through the Force, but it didn't like show like romantically in the show until like the very end. That was just a kiss to be a kiss.
That goes back to the whole poster in China debacle, which like I said,
I'm going to attribute that to much like movie Wolverine is a bitch compared to comic Wolverine.
Well, I don't think we should be traumatizing audience members with the amount of blood and gore.
No. But that is because you can't do an internal monologue in a movie.
That is true.
Same way you can in a comic. So all of that internal monologue about how sad he is, they had to do with acting instead. So I'm sure if I were to write the Star Wars movies from a written perspective, there would be all these internal monologues showing why that connection was there. But it's next to impossible to actually show that in a movie. It's extraordinarily difficult.
No, it really is.
And some of the ways that Kylo talked to her, like during the Force things, you could kind of see his feelings toward her, but you could not see hers toward him at all.
No, you really couldn't. And all right, there's like, let's face it, there's a whole bunch of other stuff we want to talk about, but you know, I'll try to end it here. I actually do think the biggest cardinal sin, the worst part of the trilogy, was that while they were alive, we never got Luke, Leia, and Han in the same fucking scene together.
No,
I never got that.
Good thing. Because it gives us that longing for it. It gives us that hurt.
I know it really does, but that only adds to the hate for the sequel trilogy. I do honestly believe that if they had just got given a one shot of like the three of them together, I feel like the blowback for the sequel trilogy could have at least been manageable. But the fact is we never got that, and now we can't.
Well, Luke and Leia did have their ghosts with Rey at the same time, so in a way it was kind of done, but it wasn't because Han wasn't there.
Okay. All right. Oh my God. We started talking about the worst parts when it was at 28 minutes. All right. So on the other end of that coin, oh boy, I don't think this is going to last as long, but let's hope. Now, what are the best parts of the sequel trilogy? All right. I guess Sean, start us off. Well, we'll do one at a time.
Okay, to me, the best part was actually stopping the laser with the Force. I think that was a good opener.
That was dope. That was dope.
Like, I mean, you've seen Darth Vader like block him and everything, but you never seen someone like literally stop it in midair.
That is true. That is actually very much so true. John, you're next.
Unequivocally, it brought John Boyega and Oscar Isaacs the attention they deserve. Because those two are two brilliantly talented men who deserve way bigger roles than they were getting before. And looking at their IMDb's before joining Star Wars and after, it's entirely different scale of work, and they deserve that scale of work.
They deserve the recognition. They really do.
They're amazing. They've always been amazing, and they deserve it. So good for those two.
All right, Kylene.
Oh, my favorite thing that they've done with it was the scene where Chewbacca and Han with and the Falcon, when they just brought it all together, and just seeing them piloting the ship again, that just gave me so many chills. I loved it.
All right. I know there are a lot of things. There are a lot of good things to talk about. But well, okay. Before I go to what I want to talk about, let's just all agree that the final discussion part of this will be Adam Driver. Let's not get into Adam Driver until the end of this segment, because let's face it, he really. I mean, I can't be the only one who thinks that he was the best part of the sequel trilogy, right?
He's a freaking phenomenal actor. I've seen a lot of his work.
Had they given Boyega the same treatment, I think Finn could have and would have been a better character. But Driver is an amazing actor and deserves the love. Yep.
All right. So we'll save.
They should have been the leads. Those two.
Yes.
We'll save Adam Driver for the end. But here's the thing. You guys were actually talking shit about it in the previous segment, but I really liked well, until they screwed it up with Rise of Skywalker, the die data aspect, where it's, because that actually did feel like it was a continuation from Force Awakens, when you're like, the girl is here, and he's like, what girl? And when we actually see that they're kind of connected a little bit, and I know we're trying to save for Kylo Ren and Adam Driver at the end, but I will just briefly touch upon it here. But I loved that they were connected through the Force. It's not a matter of light and dark. It's just them across the universe and galaxy. They're connected by this, by the Force. And despite the fact, yes, it was Palpatine who did it, but it was so interesting and unique because, yes, all right, was it an addition that may or may not have made sense? Yes. However, the first two movies, 4 and 5, just had them moving things with their mind and, like with their hand from time to time. And then in the 6th movie, we had Force lightning, which, you didn't know you can do that with the Force. So overall, I loved that dynamic. In The Last Jedi, every scene where it was just Rey and Kylo Ren talking through the Force, to me, felt so unique and so fresh. Like that was an addition to Star Wars that I was like, I can get behind this, because like
initially I very much so liked it, but by the end they stopped implementing it so well.
They really did. Once Rey was able to force heal and here's the thing, I don't think it makes sense to like teleport things using the Force. That at that point that seems like a cop out. However, I do like the idea of at
that point it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, but what I do like is I liked the idea of elements of a person's surrounding being like transported across the Force, in the scene in Last Jedi where after he was talking to him on what's the planet where Luke was on again?
I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember.
Let's just say Northern Ireland because that's where they shot it. So on the Northern Ireland planet, after he was done talking, he's like, what is that? He looks in his hand and there's water droplets. And, and I liked the idea where it's like, I could figure out where you are because, I can actually feel parts of their surroundings. I like that idea. I like that. That was, to me, that was great until it wasn't. All right.
Your surrounding is different than water actually transporting with it.
That's true. But I did like the idea. I didn't like it when he's like, I have this necklace. I know where they are. I liked it if it was a little more subtle. Like, imagine if the same thing happened in Rise of Skywalker, where after he was done talking, he was like, and he's like, he takes off his mask and sand pours out of it, and he's like, like a little bit of sand. That would like elemental, naturalistic things, not like a lightsaber, which is made, you know, artificially, like, you know, water, sand, maybe a little bit of trees, something like that, because the Force is supposed to be natural, right? It's supposed to be something, a natural force that encompasses all living things. So if that's the case, then, you know, it would make more sense for like just little bits of like environment to be transported through the Force because it's a naturalistic element. All right. Sean, it's your turn again. What's another great part of the sequel trilogy that you constantly think back to?
Well, let's see. Kylene took one of mine, which is the Han and Chewbacca coming back. Trying to think.
Let's face it, they're the best.
Chewie.
Han, Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to. Actually, I don't think I could. Nah, I can't think of it. Well, actually, hold on. When Luke was handling the lightsaber, he was like, "Eh."
Oof, that's all right. I'll let you have that one. I'll let you have that one. John, you're next.
As far as the best stuff that came from it, I loved the expansion of the universe and the addition. I liked the First Order. I didn't like the returning of the super weapon, but I liked the idea that if you leave this fascist hyper empire a shard of it big enough to do something with itself, it will. And I liked that story because, well, as an EU aficionado, it was Thrawn's armada. It was so-and-so's shard of the empire. And
Thrawn is coming back, which I'm excited for.
I have very much so enjoyed his implementation in Rebels.
Oh my god, he's coming back in Ahsoka. I hope it's Matt Mikkelsen's, I think, brother who plays him. I hope he plays him. There was just something about that voice. It's monotone yet raspy, and it's calm.
Who here's a Sherlock fan?
What?
Who here's a Sherlock fan?
I was for a while.
You remember Lars Mikkelsen, don't you?
Lars Mikkelsen, that's right.
From, dude, he was like season 3.
Season.
Oh, never mind.
No, I saw the first 2 seasons.
Never mind. He was the big bad after Moriarty died.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I need to watch number 3 then.
And he was the villain that Sherlock killed, like shot in the forehead, point blank. And he did a thing. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you want to see how vicious, and disgusting, and evil this man can play, watch season 3 of Sherlock.
I will do that. I love a good villain because seriously, villains make the story.
They do.
They really do.
And the Mikkelsen brothers are fantastic.
They really are. And Twitter seems to agree with that. Kylene, this is yours. What do you? Good part. What do you have?
The lightsaber fight and the actual third movie, like the actual fighting and things that happened in the third movie was really good, and it made me wanting more. Like it got the right hit points. The parts that I didn't like about it, again, like I said, was the fact that the ending itself, but like the actual leading up to it, it was fantastic. I love most of the fight sequences in the movie, all 3 films I loved.
Yeah, you're right. And no, the action. Even though now it's been proven that the throne room fight could, like, a lot of the stuntmen weren't as great as they could have been.
Oh God, it was awful.
You know, it's the Corridor Digital. They've made me appreciate visual effects more. However, they have ruined a lot of fight scenes for me. But I hope you guys are watching. But no, the action. It definitely never felt flat. You know, I mean, Battle of Crate was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. Which brings me to my favorite part, and that is aspects of Luke's story, and this includes the burning of the Jedi tree and the Battle of Crate. one thing I loved was they brought back Yoda. And look, say what you will about Luke's character in that movie, but Luke's interaction, Luke, an old, disheveled, kind of like grizzy, a little, like a lot older, Luke Skywalker being confronted by his former master. That whole interaction was great. And you can tell it was great because Frank Oz came out of retirement to in terms of acting with, where you see his, you actually see parts of his face for Knives Out, which, was Rian Johnson's movie after Last Jedi. You did something right when Frank Oz is like, you know what, you want me in your movie, I'll come be in your movie. You did my character justice. Everything with Yoda and that 3-minute scene, it gave a good lesson, and as poor as some of the other aspects of that movie, I kind of like Canto Bight. I mean, it explores, some different aspects of Star Wars that we haven't seen, even though that whole segment was, it was a good inclusion. But the fact is that entire scene with Yoda was so well executed. And then the payoff, which was, you think I'm just going to walk out with a laser sword and face down the whole First Order? And he did. And the fact that he used force projection, was awesome, because in the end it's Luke kind of giving the finger to Kylo Ren, see you around, kid. And we learned after the script leaks that was supposed to be continued. Luke was supposed, while training Rey, he was going to haunt Kylo Ren what did I tell you? What did I tell you? I told you I'd be here. You can't get rid of me. No, you can't get rid of me. Luke, parts of Luke's story in The Last Jedi was so brilliant. Everything with Yoda and the Battle of Canto Bight, which, yes, it counts as a lightsaber fight because, he had a lightsaber and, Kylo Ren had a lightsaber, even though it never clashed. But that's for me. All right, Sean, well, we're going to go one more round, and then we're going to talk about Adam Driver. All right? So.
All right. The best scene.
Yeah, no, what's another awesome part of the sequel trilogy?
Han Solo actually explaining how the Force works and how it does not work to Finn, I think it was.
Yeah. That's not how the Force works.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that because, granted, if you read the books, you had a more clear understanding, but in the films themselves, they just showed you this great ability, but they didn't get in depth with it until they actually started explaining it to someone that didn't know. That was a great.
It was a great way to try and discuss the Force. John,
to me, I just had it in my head. The best part is they canonized Leia as a semi-trained Force user. Because in the EU, she was fantastic as a Force user, and if they hadn't canonized her as being almost as powerful as Luke, it would have been a waste. It would have been a wash.
It would have been an absolute waste. You're right. Great way to
canonize that. And her lightsaber, if y'all want the links for some sabersmiths, I'll hook you up.
Send me that on Discord, please.
Will do.
All right, Eileen.
Okay. No, that's kind of a double-edged one. Just the introduction of Finn's character and the stormtroopers, and then how they're branching off from the First Order, things like that, the storyline behind that, and the fact that they actually gave them a detailed history for the First Order itself. I didn't like the First Order personally, but the fact that they actually delved into it more than they did with in the previous ones, they actually explained how it came about and the fall of it and everything. I like plot. And the stuff that we don't necessarily care to know about, but with any writer being able to answer any of these questions, it felt like if I had a question, the writers would know the answer without having to think about it. It felt like it was a true organization that actually existed.
It's great. It's great. And for me, before we go into the elephant, I honestly, there really has only been a few consistencies in people that actually stayed from the moment 1977 Star Wars hit to now, and that is the implement. And honestly, that's C-3PO and John Williams. It's honestly as stupid as Rise of Skywalker was. It gave some really good moments for C-3PO, and yes, I honestly wish they killed him off. Yes, that's heresy, but it's that sacrifice, that moment. Like Anthony Daniels had a time to like really shine as an actor, and he was like, I'm taking one last look at my friends, and you felt that. Anthony Daniels, as C-3PO was always a pleasure, and the fact is even though I keep saying the fact is, one of the great aspects of Star Wars is the score. John Williams, even though he didn't go as hard in this trilogy as he went for the original and even for the prequels, he still gave life to Star Wars. He is still one of the reasons why we always want to come back to the galaxy far, far away. There is no Star Wars without that soundtrack. You need excellent music to help fill in this world. So that's for me. Now we get to the juicy part. Adam goddamn Driver. All right. Who wants to start with this one? Who wants to talk about why Adam Driver's awesome? Let's just take this next couple. Who wants to go first? Sean, you want to just go around in a circle and talk about Adam Driver?
I don't know much about Adam Driver, to be honest.
Sorry, Kylo Ren's character. That's what I meant. Adam, because one of the things everyone seems to agree on is that in terms of character, Kylo Ren was like the consistently like good character to actually make it out of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's actually true because, he seems like he's a bad guy, but then he starts like thinking like, am I making the right choice? Am I doing the right thing? Like even though his interactions with Rey are like kind of dumb, it's just like he self-doubts himself.
You're right.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's the only one that actually has like.
He thinks he's committed to evil, but he's not.
Yeah.
That's not who he is. He's someone who was manipulated, and one of the great things is that sure, was Snoke underutilized? Yes, and how dare you waste Andy Serkis? But John gets it. You don't waste
Andy Serkis is a fucking talent and a gift from God.
Literally, he made playing a monkey he made me cry when playing a monkey twice.
Dude, Gollum.
He was arguably, listen, if Killmonger had not been in Black Panther, he would have been the best villain the MCU has ever created.
Exactly.
Yeah. Although Michael B. Jordan did really great as Killmonger.
Oh, Michael B. Jordan.
We're not going to.
Michael B. Jordan broke a girl's retainer, okay?
What?
Wait, what?
A girl was grinding her teeth while thirsting for Michael B. Jordan in the shirtless scene so hard she broke her retainer.
That is ridiculous.
And then she tweeted about it. Oh no! And then her doctor tweeted about it. And then she tweeted a response of, "Oh my God, my orthodontist just called me out." And then Michael B. Jordan reached out to her to pay for her a new retainer.
That's great.
That's funny.
Series of events just makes you go, what the fuck is going on here?
All right, moving back to Kylo Ren. One of the aspects that I liked about him, was his choice. It was his choice to kill Snoke. Sure, was it rushed? Yes. However, he took a stance, and he was a very active participant in the trilogy. A lot of choices that were made were choices that he himself made. It wasn't something that was forced on him. He literally chose it himself, and his arc was
an active character rather than a reactive.
Exactly. And a lot of great choices about that character were made, and it's like, whether that be from a design standpoint in terms of the lightsaber, in terms of his outfit. And it's just a lot of smart choices were made when utilizing that character, and at least for me. Kylene?
Yeah, I think that like I said, I've watched a lot of Adam Driver stuff even before I knew about him being in Star Wars, and he's just that kind of character that even though whether he's good or bad, you're just rooting for him. Like it's just his personality. The actors, like, he just makes you so compelled to want to follow him. Like in the entirety of the trilogy, I was rooting for Kylo Ren to be the victor, whether he was doing it for the Force of good or bad. It's like I wanted him to win. Like, exactly. He's just that great of an actor. Like you just want him to succeed.
It's right, and you want and just to avoid rambling on any further, I'll try to end it here. But I feel like one of the parts that really solidified him was his interactions with Harrison Ford, Han Solo.
Oh, they were fantastic. Was done
well, and yes, the fact is bringing Harrison Ford back. Like, it wasn't that he was a Force ghost. I think it was more along the lines of Ben Solo's psyche. But that moment in Rise of Skywalker, where it was like a parallel between the bridge scene and Force Awakens, that felt like a tremendous and well-earned payoff for his character. It's weird, you know? Not a lot of characters got an arc in that franchise. Finn got one, but only in the first movie, and then just kind of was like, yeah. And, and Rey didn't even really get an arc either. But the fact is that Kylo Ren changed as a person, and that scene where he finally comes to the light in Rise of Skywalker really was done so well. It felt earned. Like, there was not a lot of scenes in that trilogy that felt earned, but that scene where he finally flips the switch and is like, you want to know what? He throws a lightsaber. That was, I teared up. It was a beautiful moment.
He's a Skywalker. His actions, the way he everything happened, that is why he is the true Skywalker here, not Rey.
Exactly.
A point, playing off of my whole reactive versus active protagonist, Anakin was a reactive protagonist. Everything that happened with him, story-wise, was somebody else doing something to him. Rey was a reactive character, but poorly written. Ben was an active character. Ben did the thing. And we see how that paid off. And we see how that should have been applied to both Rey and Finn as well as Kylo.
Yeah, because you can be a reactive character, but still be compelling. Like, they did really good in 4 through 6. Like, because a lot of that was reactive. They switched between active and reactive for Luke's storyline.
That's true. And a good protagonist can be reactive and active, but the fact is that having a solely reactive character doesn't ever really lead to good things. And that's something about Kylo Ren. He was both a reactive and active participant in the story. Sure, things happened to him, but the fact is that I need to stop saying that. That's like the 16th time I said that. I apologize.
We all fall into those things, that phrase that we just keep tripping over.
Exactly. But to finish off this segment, overall, Kylo Ren.
Ready to talk about Lewin Harris, or what is that? Lewin Davis. The Lewin Davis movie with Driver.
Oh my God, that was a good movie. Yes. Good movie. But to finish off this segment, it's Kylo Ren and Adam Driver overall really, really sold this trilogy. He was I feel like he was the reason why a lot of people came back for Rise of Skywalker, because I mean that's why I did. I wanted to figure out what happened to him, and I just want to say this. I find it so funny that the most hated aspect of Force Awakens, which was everyone didn't like Kylo Ren.
Well, he was infantilized through the roof in that movie.
No, he really was. And by the end of Rise of Skywalker, everyone's like, oh my God, Adam Driver broke his back. Doing what? Carrying this trilogy.
Yeah, like after the first movie, he became a decent character. But in the first movie, they infantilized him so hard to the point where if they hadn't fixed him, I would not have liked him. But they changed course with him, and it worked.
All right. So now going back to the divide brings us to our next question. Don't worry, we have 3 questions left. Hopefully these next 2 questions won't take up a large chunk of time. And I do apologize because we're all rambling. We're all very deep and passionate Star Wars fans. And unfortunately, when not like the prequels, it's easy to talk about the things we do and do not like because it's presented to you easily. Visual effects, dialogue, some of the story beats, and some of the acting choices.
Jar Jar beats.
That's something a lot of people can agree on.
Jar Jar, like the little cells that make up the
Chlorians. Yes,
Chlorians.
He needs to be a Sith. If a Jar Jar is there, he needs to be a Sith because that's exactly how he acts. He is honestly, a Sith.
Like Jar Jar is nothing compared to the midichlorians.
Exactly. And with the prequels, at least there's fingers that can be pointed to. However, with the sequel trilogy, it is so much clear that it hurts more because it's wasted potential. And speaking of wasted potential, because remember, the whole point of this conversation, this debate, was whether or not we believe it should remain canon or not. That's the whole point of this argument. And yes, we have all talked about the things that we liked and the things that we didn't like, but now we need to come back to, drawing a line in the sand, which brings us to our next question. If the sequel trilogy was to be replaced, who would you like to see helm a new trilogy, and what would that new trilogy be exactly? Sean, this is mainly just for you and me. And if you two would like to, and Kylene, John, if you guys would like to throw your 2 cents in there, just let me know. But this is mainly the side of, Oh, you would? All right.
Yeah.
We'll get.
I think I know. I think if they were to do another trilogy that wasn't a continuation of the Star Wars story, I got who I know. What I know.
All right, don't worry. Like the next question, actually, you know what? You got Kylene, John, don't answer this question because the next question will actually help flesh it out a little bit more. But Sean, who would you like if let's say the sequel trilogy is decanonized and now a new trilogy is going to be implemented? We know Rian Johnson has a trilogy on the way, but let's not get into Rian Johnson and Star Wars specifically. Let's say there's just a trilogy of new Star Wars movies. Who would you like to see helm them?
That's a tough one. Like I said, I can never think of a new trilogy at all. Let's see. I got nothing.
Really?
I can't think of anything. I just don't like the new trilogy because of what they did, but I can't think of anything else. Like, what would happen if we replaced that trilogy with a different one?
Well, maybe it's not a matter of. Maybe it's a matter of not really necessarily finishing the Skywalker saga, but rather trying to touch upon a different element of a galaxy far, far away. Which
That's
is
true.
Brings me to what I believe would be a very good fit. If I was to let's say, for example, that the new trilogy was wiped from canon. Well, why not try? Why not have your new trilogy? We've give me a sec. Star Wars canon is long and very complicated. And the one thing I like is that even though all the extended universe stuff was, thrown out the window, one thing Disney seemingly hasn't commented on in terms of canon, because I'm pretty sure they know better, is everything with Darth Bane, Revan, everything like that. The Old Republic. I like how Disney never said that's not canon anymore, because let's face it, if they said that, there would be blood in the water. But here's the reason why I liked that story. It takes place thousands of years before the Battle of Yavin. So, on the other end of that statement, why not have a trilogy set in the far, far, far future? And yes, the easy answer is Dave Filoni. That dude is basically, if we're going to go with biblical metaphors here, he's George Lucas is God, Dave Filoni is Jesus. He's George Lucas 2.0. So, but that's the easy answer. We all know that if he helmed the trilogy, he would, he'd kill it. We all know that. However, that's an easy answer. Why not give the Star Wars license to, a director with a more unique vision? Because a lot of the Star Wars movies do kind of feel very, very similar, at least in terms of execution, with the exception of Rogue One, because Gareth Edwards and the DP Greg Fraser knew, hey, what if we actually use scale properly, which is kind of weird, because if you watch Rogue One, it does feel different. It feels massive. So like, why not give why not give it to someone like maybe James Wan, Leigh Whannell, Zack Snyder, or Jordan Peele? Really really kind of delve into what Star Wars could become. Set your trilogy years in the future. You don't have to, so that way you don't have to mess up the new trilogy the original trilogy timeline. And of course, if they decide to keep the sequel trilogy canon, you won't have to fuck with that either. But overall, what I'd like to see is a director with a very distinct and unique voice take a hold of a Star Wars sequel trilogy that takes place years in the future. Why not talk about, or at the very least, bring back the Sith, bring back Jedi, have a massive battle that's basically just knights with swords and shields, but with lightsabers and Jedi and Sith.
I think they should bring back the race of the Sith, not necessarily the Sith like the order, but the actual race.
Right, yeah. Or at the very least, don't even talk about the Jedi. Well, actually, no, that's not true. Star Wars needs Jedi. That's a horrible idea. If you take Jedi out of Star Wars, it's like, what are you doing? But overall, what I'd like to see is a director with a more unique and distinct voice take a hold of a trilogy that's set thousands of years in the future. Because if that happens, we could actually discuss new stories and without interfering with the timeline. Now, that being said, that's me. Now, Kylene, John, if you guys would like to throw your sense in here as well, you can. But please keep it brief. Who would you like to see helm a new trilogy? And if that's the case, what would it be?
I think John should take this one away.
We were bursting out laughing because I was tweeting to her, or I was messaging her, Revan. Right before you were starting to talk about it, was Revan or Darth Bane.
You mentioned both.
And then you guys started talking about it, and we started cackling over here. Because, really, they need to pay Revan his dues.
They really do.
I can't think of anybody who could do a Darth Bane movie justice, much less a Darth Bane trilogy. Revan has such a massive exploit that you could make 3 movies out of it, and you could do it very well. It's very cinematic in that nature because of the Mandalorian Wars. Bane, there's too much intricacy in his story too much spirituality about the Force for it to be an easy movie, though I would love to see it made.
If they make it, it would need to be a series, not a movie.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, it's so much.
Now, what filmmaker would you like to see helm this sort of Darth Bane or Darth Revan trilogy?
Oddly enough, my 2 favorite directors are actually director teams, and I think they could do it very well. And that is either the Wachowskis or the Coen brothers, or not the Coen brothers. The Russos. The Russos.
Yes, I was thinking the Russos too.
Yeah,
the Russos.
I think if you do Bane, I think the Wachowskis could do a better job. If you do Revan, the Russos, the Winter Soldier is arguably still the most perfect comic book movie ever, and this is coming from a guy who's obsessed with Steve Rogers and has been since 2003. That is the perfect comic book movie, and I think they could take Revan and do wonders with him.
Okay, that's good. Now, sorry, Kylene, we're gonna. Do you have anything to say, or would you like to move on to the next question?
Oh no, I was with him. Like I said, we were having this conversation while you guys were talking.
That's fair. All right. However, this one now mainly lies on the 2 of you, because the next question is: let's say if the sequel trilogy remains canon, it can't be changed. What new stories and tales would you like to see told in this timeline? And who would you like to see helm these stories?
I would love to see them flesh out Finn as an agent and possibly even hint at his, not necessarily becoming a Jedi, but expanding upon his own Force sensitivity.
Interesting.
Essentially a spy movie where he learns he's got superpowers.
You know who I think could do that very well? Rick Famuyiwa? Rick Famuyiwa. Sorry if I'm messing up his name. But or your name, if he's happened to watch this, which if that is, hey. Big fan. Love Dope. But no, one thing that because here's the thing. From me, yeah. He was the one who I think designed.
Oh, Dope.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's the one who handled Bill Burr's character, as the 2 episodes that he wrote and directed himself was mainly the ones that involved Bill Burr's character. Space Boston Man. But he,
which has me very excited for the Space Irish, my people.
And it's we've seen what built we've all seen the episode where he's like it's like 12,000 people all dead in an instant. Do you think they had do you think they had a say? You felt that was only 5 minutes of dialogue and you knew everything about him that you needed to know.
Yeah.
And the fact is he was a former Imperial sharpshooter. So I believe that, so going off what you said, if anyone was to helm that, it has to be Rick. I feel like he understands the complexities that come from being a deserter, or not even that, doing a
lot with the character, but being quiet about it.
Exactly.
I think he could do it. I think he could do a very good job of it. Dope was a really amazing movie.
Dope was dope.
Yes, Dope was dope. Let's just be real.
All right.
Either that, or I would like to see a movie exploring, and I just completely forgot her name. Holdo, exploring why she was such a big deal.
Ahsoka?
Besides being played by Laura Dern, of course.
Yeah. The was she an admiral?
Admiral Holdo, yes.
The lady who did the suicide hyperdrive.
Oh yeah.
I would like to see a series exploring why she was such a big deal. Really, I just want to see the side characters get their love, because Poe Dameron is Bae and all that.
That's fair. Kylene?
Okay, I would like probably 2 different storylines. I would like to see the Old Republic actually flesh that out in movies, because they hinted at it in all the Star Wars games and the books, but you don't see it on screen, and I'd love to see that on screen. There was so much lore, the Sith were more rampant. There's so much stuff they could do with that, and I would like to see those stories. And then another one I would like to see would be after this trilogy, and basically the reconstruction of the Jedi Order, and since we have to have Rey, since she's alive, how she's going to bring about training the new Jedi, creating the new order, and then obviously since she's very big about emotions, making it so emotions aren't always leading you to the dark side. It's just a matter of letting being in control of them, but still expressing them, but don't let your emotions cloud your judgment, though,
Oh, I was going to suggest Alex Proyas for directing that series before you mentioned Rick. But then I found out he directed The Gods of Egypt, and
No.
You can leave that be.
I would like to see Lucas do the Old Republic. I know he won't touch Star Wars again, but he's the one who wrote the whole I'd like to see him direct that, because it's very heavy on that.
I think he's a great screenwriter. I don't think he needs to be directing anymore, because it was his.
Actually, I don't even think he's good at that. I think what he is a great story conceptualizer and a great ideas man. He is.
Well, even just him at the helm with that stuff, even just giving them the information that they need to write the story, and they're just overseeing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
He needs to be involved though in it, in at least in the Old Republic, not in the new stuff. And as for the new stuff, I would go with what you say with the Russo brothers, because I love the Russo brothers, and I think they would do really good on expanding it, just like what they're doing with Marvel right now, expanding the universe. I think that they would be really good with that.
No. All right.
They can take this lore and just make so much work with it.
All right. Now, we've all talked about our parts that are favorite, parts that we think sucked, benefits, detriments, new stories, replacing old ones, and new stories adding on to what we have. However, we have been talking about the people behind Star Wars, whether it be J.J. Abrams, George Lucas, Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, All these people, Rian Johnson included. So we're on to our final question. We're almost done, but it's kind of a big one. And that is, and it's going to be a little bit yikes, but should Kathleen Kennedy stay in charge of Lucasfilm, or should Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau take over? Sean, hold on. Sorry. Well, let's try to go around in a circle. Sean, you start.
What was the question again?
Should Kathleen Kennedy stay in charge at Lucasfilm, be in control of Star Wars, or should she step down and hand over the reins to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau?
I say give it to someone else. Like to see, like, I'm not saying like anything about bad directing or whatever. I just want to see like who else could bring life to Star Wars, or like see if they could actually continue it the way it should or the way it shouldn't. You know what I mean?
I get that. You don't necessarily want someone to like helm Star Wars in a way that's like, let's keep telling stories. You want someone who's like, let's tell stories, but let's do it in a way that's respectful and actually, remains like that's consistent in terms of timeline. That's exactly all right. That's a very good answer. That's a very diplomatic answer. John, you're next.
I think if you're going to hand it over to anybody, it needs to be Filoni. But at the same time, I think he works best as a director, not as the whole head of the thing. But if you're going to hand it off to anybody, it should be him. Favreau, I love him to death. Chef is one of my favorite movies of all time. And as somebody who worked in that field, incredibly accurate. But I think if you're going to hand it off to anybody, it should be Filoni. Favreau, he's got his own stuff, and he's always bouncing around between his projects, and I don't think he would pay it the proper due attention.
That's fair.
But my one concern with having Filoni take over is he is much better closer to the ground, if that makes any sense.
You're right. He's someone who he's not someone that is he's
the maker, not the manager.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's better when he's not sitting behind a desk, when he's on set and he's like sitting with people discussing discussing these elements of Star Wars. You're absolutely right.
But if you have to hand it off to somebody, it's Filoni. Filoni respects the spirit that Lucas left. He respects the philosophy and the lore in ways that very few people do, including those of us in this room. Like, let's be real, none of us can lay that claim.
No, absolutely not.
We all love it, but none of us can lay that claim.
None of us can. You're absolutely right.
So there's mine. If you have to, give it to Filoni.
Kylene?
Okay, if you're going off that list, like I've been stating before, I go with Favreau. But what John said, yes, he is doing all his other projects and probably wouldn't do it as Justice said it needs, but I've seen him progress from all of the stuff from Marvel and then the other stuff that he's been doing, like with The Mandalorian, things like that. And I just think that given the chance with him being the one in charge of it all, I think he would actually make it where it should have been. Like that if he was in charge, that last trilogy would not have happened. It would have happened so much differently and more than likely better. I mean, there are parts, granted, that would be worse than they were, but in majority wise, it would have been better. So agreed. I think like if anybody, it should be like him out of the ones that we mentioned.
It's true. And, for me, because one of the things that I thought was interesting is that Kathleen Kennedy, before she became the head of Lucasfilms, was a producer. But from what I've heard, she was never much of a creative. She was good with, logistics, bringing people together, helping push things in the right direction. So, but she is a businesswoman. She's great, and she's a great businesswoman. I
think she needs to be CFO or not CTO, Chief Financial Officer.
Chief Financial, yeah.
She doesn't need to be the head of. She doesn't need to be the captain of the ship. She needs to be the quartermaster.
They tried putting her in a Kevin Feige position. Kevin Feige is a creative, yes, but he's also able to juggle budgets of like astronomical proportions. He's creative, and he's good with numbers. So one thing that I think is very interesting is that everyone here has all kind of agreed that Kathleen Kennedy should step down, me included. And in a perfect world, yes, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau would make like excellent helmers of Star Wars. However, it's not as easy. Like it's Lucasfilm. It's not helming Star Wars. It's also helming Willow. It's also helming Indiana Jones, and it's all of these logistical aspects.
Which God's willing, they let Harrison Ford take a nap on that one. They need to stop They need to not make any more of those unless they introduce a new indie.
No, you're right. and look, in terms of controlling Star Wars, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have clearly shown that they're able to make things for both old fans and new alike. They understand the source material. They understand these characters. They understand what makes Star Wars so unique and important to many people. And they're able to juggle, many characters. So, that being said, me personally, I think John and Dave would make great helmers for Star Wars. But in terms of being in charge of Lucasfilm, you need somebody like a Kevin Feige. You need a Kevin Feige. And that could be Jon Favreau because he's produced a lot of things on his own. So, it's clear that he is as much of a businessman as anybody else. We want
I don't think he'd be happy, though, with the business aspect because, again, he is a huge creative. And from what I've seen from all of his socials and stuff, he prefers to be the one directing and acting and things like that. I don't think he'd be happy sitting behind a desk most of the time.
No, and that's something that you're right upon. So I find it funny. This is a question that I wanted to spark a discussion, but I feel it's a loaded question with an answer that's not easy to give. It's clear the fandom wants Kathleen gone. That's painfully evident.
Well, but let's be real.
If you want, but saying what we're saying, it's the equivalent of having a broken down car, saying what's wrong with this car, and then simply saying, "Oh, if we change the tires, it should drive." No, it's not as easy as changing the tires because now
it's
you have
a big fucking job.
And you have to make sure that the trunk is able to. There's so much that goes into this car that simply changing tires will not fix it.
No, it's a huge job. Kennedy has tried her best and sadly proven that she's
incapable.
Just not the right person for the job, and it's a massive job, especially not just. Because you have to remember, she's not just in charge of Lucasfilm. She has to answer to the House of Mouse, which is arguably the first mega corporation in the world. They've bought up as much of their competitors as they could to the point where there's discussions in Congress about taking them to court for monopolizing things. They have to bring that stuff in, and it's a steep order. And Kennedy has proven that she's just not the one for the job. And realistically, we're never going to have a perfect answer for that, for who should replace her.
There's only one Kevin Feige, and the unfortunate aspect is that Kevin Feige is lightning in a bottle. And it became so clear that Disney wanted Kathleen Kennedy to be that Kevin Feige. And she's not. She's not. And it's unfortunate, yes, there's a whole bunch of people that wanted this to fail from the beginning, and they're probably celebrating. But it's,
there's a black stormtrooper, lynch him.
But
there's always those naysayers.
It's sad because it's clear that it's clear. Take Michael Bay. see the last 2 Transformers films, you know he clearly didn't give a shit.
No,
So,
he did not. He gave mega fucks.
But here's the thing. With the new Star Wars trilogy, it's not a matter of they didn't give a shit. They just didn't plan it out right. And it's like there's like you can tell.
It's a combination of that and them trying to please too many audiences at once.
I know that a lot of what happened is her fault, especially with Last Jedi, because it's true. She gave Rian Johnson far too much free reign on that movie, and rather than just reining him in and being like, "Hey, can you actually make a sequel?" And it's so clear. You hear her talk about him. She wanted to work with him for so long, and you even find out that she even approached him to help write and direct The Force Awakens, but he was busy on something else, so he turned it down. We're not trying to discredit Kathleen Kennedy and her work. Like, she has been in this industry far longer than any one of us, has a lot more has a bigger reputation to her name, and has proven herself time and time again. It's just with this specific aspect, in terms of Star Wars, she has proven not to be the best fit. So, we're all trying to be respectable here towards her. I think we can all agree she should not be in charge of this.
A person can do great work and just not be the right person for that job.
Exactly. We're not doubting her abilities. We're just saying that she has proven not to be the best fit for this role.
It happens.
It happens, like sometimes
kind of like Daisy Ridley. Like, I mean, her herself as an actress, I've seen her other things. She was great. But as Rey, and with what they did with her, I don't know if it was specifically with her acting or the fact that she didn't have enough materials to work with. But it's just her character and all, just it could have done without her.
I'm gonna be ballsy here and say it's like Christian Haydenson in the sequel trilogy or in the prequel trilogy. Let's be real. Anakin in Attack of the Clones was garbage. And it was entirely down to the writing of the dialogue around him. And Hayden Christensen is such a great actor. He wanted to put so much into the character that they kept reining him back and pulling him back and giving him garbage bits of script. And it took a character that could have been, it took character moments that could have been amazing and made them just kind of, huh?
It's like with Marvel, like they give you a guideline, but at the same time, if you change it and it's good, they keep it. Like freaking, like in the Avengers, Robert Downey Jr. mentioned shawarma as a last thing, but it was so good it stuck, and they made a whole in sequence on it. It was literally, he said it on the fly because he was hungry.
Look, with Kathleen Kennedy, she got the job because, she was part of the crew. She worked with George Lucas. She worked with Steven Spielberg. She worked with, Frank Marshall, all of whom have had huge parts to play in just crafting Lucasfilm and even making movies around it as well. George Lucas handed it to her because he believed it was best in her hands. And just because, it goes back to something can sound amazing on paper. And hopefully, and like take David Ayer in Suicide Squad. Like we will eventually see I'm going to take the opportunity to say release David Ayer's Suicide Squad because he got boned with the reshoots. But on paper he was the best choice. He is a filmmaker who understands anti-heroes. He himself has had a very hard upbringing and understands how a lot of the world works. He was the perfect choice, and unfortunately, due to studio interference and also a rushed script, it didn't land. At least with the version we got. Hopefully, with the other version, we will be proven wrong. But it goes back to they made a miscalculation, and that's where we'll leave it. So
yeah, that's one thing I don't agree on with studios and rush scripts. Like if you want something done right and to stick. Granted, yeah, you need content out, but at the same time, you can't rush something like that. You can't rush. I mean, I get the whole rewriting and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? It's hard to
you can't rush it. I mean, hell, Lord of the Rings took almost 5 years to make. Hell, they kept shooting even after they won 11 Oscars. But we'll leave it there for now. If this has gone on, I mean, we just passed the runtime for the first John Wick movie. So that being said,
we haven't even mentioned the audience stuff
here. I'd like to thank Kylene McHenry.
What about the audience?
And I'd like to thank Sean Torres for all joining me today and talking about Star Wars for nearly 2 hours.
Noah, what about the audience?
That's like a regular.
We're going to include them,
dude. Like,
hold on. Actually, hold on. You said audience, right?
Yeah. What about the audience? Because we were going to bring in some of their commentary.
Oh, that's true. If anyone's watching, if you'd like to ask a question or like to announce something, then that's totally fine. Actually, hold on. Oh, the last person to respond was at 6:55. Okay. I don't think we are going to be. What the? I am backing Finn having a harem.
You can click on it and it'll pop up on our screen. On the stream.
Yeah. But if anyone likes to ask a question, please ask it now. We can wait a little bit before ending it. But is there anybody here that'd like to ask a question?
I would like to ask one, actually.
All right.
Okay, so this is like a little off topic while we're waiting, but what is with that whole Zack Snyder thing that you tweet about almost every single day?
Who, me?
Snyder cut?
Yes.
Wait, hold on. Who are you talking to? Me or John?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, Noah. You're the one who tweets about it almost every day.
Okay. So here's the thing. Hey, Kurt. That's a lot of letters.
We call him Raptor.
It'll show up. Yep. Click on it. Raptors. His comment will pop up.
How is everyone doing today? I'm doing fine. You know, I worked out. I'm sorry. No, I just worked. I went on a hike. You know, it was pretty good. But to answer your question, Kylene, I start off as like a small fan of Zack Snyder, but I loved Batman v Superman, and you know I was excited for Justice League, and I, as well as many other people, were kind of disappointed by it. And then you know you find out about all of these behind the scenes antics, and you find out that there was just a lot of things going wrong. And then you know he leaks out a little bit of the information about the film, and I'm just over the years I've been like, holy crap, we were robbed of a really, really, really excellent trilogy. So, you know, yes, I tweet about it every day. I like tweets about it. But overall, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show my support because, you know, I like to think I like to think that I'll be a filmmaker someday. And one thing that has always stuck with me is making sure a director gets his vision. And unfortunately, Zack Snyder didn't get his. And he was, you want to talk about being done dirty? The studio fired him because his daughter killed herself. How do you justify that? I mean, not necessarily like that, but unfortunately they didn't like the work that he was doing because he had a certain vision. He didn't want to do what Marvel did. He wanted to make something independent. He wanted to make like gods and man using superheroes, which is interesting. He had this whole thing planned out, but unfortunately, you know, Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, they're not Marvel movies. They're dark. They're more adult. They have an edge to them.
DC is DC. Marvel is Marvel. There is no connection. Yes, they have some parts that are similar, but they're gigantically different, and that's what makes them both great. It's their differences that make them great.
It's exactly, and unfortunately, what happened is that Warner Brothers was like, "Hey, let's make Avengers. Let's make a Marvel movie," and you know, they were like very much against all the work that Zack Snyder was doing. Like you listen to interviews with Chris Terrio and you know Ray Fisher, which by the way, Borg Life, and I stand with Ray. But it's heart-wrenching because you know what Zack Snyder had to do was he had a script and he shot that script. However, Jeff Johns, John Berg, and even some other people in Warner Brothers were like doing constant rewrites, and so Zack Snyder had to shoot that as well, to the point where Chris Terrio was like, "Hey, are we going to shoot anything I wrote or no?" And what happened was I think it was March of 2017, they were ordered to do reshoots with Joss Whedon kind of like coming on board to do just some quips here and there. And unfortunately, Autumn Snyder lost her battle with depression and ended her life very unfortunately. And of course, Zack Snyder, tried pushing through to try and keep himself busy. But what it was clear, even to Ben Affleck, that, he was not doing well. And of course, what happened was, they were Ben and a couple of the cast members like, hey, maybe you should just take a little bit of time, maybe step away for just a little bit. And of course, Zach was kind of against it, but almost took a step aside. But Warner Brothers took the opportunity to kind of say, you need to step down. You can't work like this, and you can't make this movie anymore. And after that, he and his wife, Deborah Snyder, walked away. They brought on Joss Whedon, and they forcibly redid much of the movie to against what Zack Snyder and what all the cast and crew had signed on for. It's really, they used his daughter's suicide as a means to basically kick him out of the DCEU, and it was just.
I don't agree with any of that. What were you saying, John?
Yeah, right. Sorry, John, you said something.
What I was going to say is actually a commentary based upon my knowledge about Jeff Johns as a comic writer, because I've only just barely paid attention to him as a producer and as far as the DCEU goes, because I'm more into the print stuff. But he very much so wanted, in regards to their comics, DC is much more bright and funny and cutesy and all that, whereas Marvel is not much, but noticeably darker overall, up until very recently. And Jeff Johns wanted Snyder to do that. He wanted to do, funnily enough, the Green Lantern run that I read front to back was a Jeff Johns run, and he very much so wanted the DCEU to feel that way from a thematic side. He wanted it to feel light and hopeful, and that wasn't what Snyder was for. And as a fan of 300 and other movies that Snyder has done, that's what he was going with. He was going with his vision of it, and Johns wanted the movie to feel like the comics, and the comics at the time especially were very bright and chipper.
They really were. And just to leave it here, I will say this: the way that Warner Brothers treated Zack Snyder, as well as a lot of the other cast and crew members during the shoot of Justice League, I believe was not okay.
I think they made a major mistake bringing Whedon in to try and, to phrase it plainly, Avengerize the Justice League.
As of right now, I want to I do want to kind of watch what I say about it, because the movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League, is still not released, and I already know, and I know that there's a lot of pushback against it already. So I don't want to run the risk of saying something that could possibly demonize the movement, as well as demonize Zack Snyder and anyone affiliated with him. All I will say is that the comment about him, Warner Brothers firing him because his daughter killed herself. Yes, that was a bit hyperbolic. I'd also like to apologize, because that actually kind of felt a little too hyperbolic, because it really wasn't as simple as that. It was a mess of a situation, both behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, and even from a studio perspective. So I'll just leave it as
conflict of interest. They used whatever tools they could to try and resolve it, and some of the means they used to resolve it were less than great.
No, and I do believe that if they had actually stuck with their guns and let Snyder do what he wanted, they probably would have had something that could have actually rivaled the MCU instead of where we are now. I mean, DC right now is the underdog. DC shouldn't be the underdog. They should be head to head.
So they have some of, prior to the Iron Man movie, Iron Man was a C-lister.
Now he's an A-lister.
In the comics, he was a solid C-lister. He barely blipped above B on occasion. And DC is starting with their A-list. They are starting with their A-list. They should be storming through the gates.
Yeah.
And the problem is that their A-list is very hard to write compellingly, but when you do it, it does it wonderfully.
Exactly. All right, doesn't seem we have any more questions. So leaving that, I'd like to say for those of you who stayed all the way through the end, including our brief little rant on Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'd like to thank you all. And I'd like to thank Kylene, John, and Sean for joining me today. I appreciate you guys stopping by and, having this fun little debate.
Sorry I didn't have any raisins to share with everybody. I ate them all.
But I wanted raisins.
Well, it's fine. All right. Have a good rest of your evening, everybody.
And quick sign off. One last thing. If you haven't already, go to our website, kyskornerproductions.com. We will have our March debate listed on our newsletter, which will be coming out the first week of March. So sign up now while you can. Haley Morales, she is one of our Showverse hosts as well as our blog and marketing manager. She will be running that one.
Very good. All right. That being said, I like to finish this up. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. And thanks for stopping by.
Toodles.
Toodles.
Good night.